Heads up, you're listening to Fresh Cut, hosted by renowned golf superintendent and sought-after course consultant, Tim Barrier. Every week, Tim and his team pull back the curtain with guests to dissect the details and stories of how the PGA and LPGA prepare courses for tournaments. Don't worry, we won't leave you in the rough or sunk in the drink. So tune in, hit that subscribe button, and relax. And now, here's Tim and Matt Palmquist on the Tee Box with this week's guest.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Fresh Cut. I am your co-host, Matt Palmquist, along with Tim Barrier. And today we have the great pleasure of having the course manager from Royal St. George's. That's right, I said it. Royal St. George's, Mr. Paul Larsen. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're extremely busy. I know there's a time difference, but for you to take the time out of your day today and join the Fresh Cut crew, it's a pleasure. So welcome, Mr. Paul Larsen.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me. Always got time for you guys, so I look forward to it.
Oh, I appreciate you coming in. I have to tell you, I'm a bit of a fan. I saw your interview on the Golf Channel. You were standing out in the golf course and somebody from the Golf Channel was interviewing you. And I was just amazed at your fresh personality. You got an interesting new take on, I think the golf course superintendent or the greenkeeper. You're an excitable guy. You're really into what you're doing. You've got a great personality, and sometimes we don't get great personalities, in the golf industry. Golf course superintendents or greenkeepers are generally very detail-oriented, almost OCD at times, and they take their jobs very, very seriously. And I know you take your job very seriously as well. I'm not saying that at all, but I was just really, really taken by your fresh attitude and just your whole kind of rock star appearance that you had there during the Open. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I noticed about your golf course is you have set a standard, a different standard for conditioning, but you still hang on to that UK British Isle style, that kind of that link style where it's still a very natural environment and a natural arena, but the conditioning of the turf grasses, your bunkers. In fact, the interview that I saw, you were using that torch to burn down the stacked bunker face walls of your bunkers. And I just thought that was the most intriguing thing. What an incredible way to keep that growth out, because when you let those sod stack walls go, they get weeds in them, they get growth, it starts to separate and split, and you have to come in and rebuild. And out here, believe it or not, there's some courses that are actually using artificial turf to get away from that. And so I thought that was such an intriguing way for you to do that. And I think maybe we can get into some of that as we go along. But I just thought that was an amazing thing. But I wanted to ask you kind of first off, who was your mentor? Who taught you to be the steward of the land that you've become? And how did you get going in this business?
Well, that's a very good question. And I'd like to say I've had a mentor as such. I haven't had one really. I'm into the Jim Arthur principles of greenkeeping, which was sort of keep them lean, not too much water, fertilizer, and he was kind of from a different generation back then, and I kind of like the principles of that.
Right.
So when I come back to the course here, I've got this idea of how I wanted the golf course to look. And it's just gathering information from all sorts of people, from farmers. I'll tell you what, I've been lucky. There was a few members, and one who died a few years ago, but he taught me a lot. And farmers, we all can criticize in the past, but they know so much. And they've helped me, and they knew this golf course, and they'd ask, why don't you try this, do this? But I think the thing for me was I had a vision or an image in my head of how I wanted the golf course to look. And I've always said my description has always been, I want it to look like there's a golf course in the middle of a dune land. There, you've stumbled off the sea, and there you are, and blimey, there's a golf course. And I kind of like the idea that you're not always sure where the hole should go. There's a green somewhere, there's a tee, so it all looks so natural. So if
Right.
mentors, the one thing I have done, if we have sort of mentors now, is I've got a club, you could say. We set up a links club a few years back now with 4 other fellow head greenkeepers, Reece, Ian, Craig, Richard, and we're always bouncing ideas off each other. And we create this club where all the links courses meet up and we discuss ideas. And the amount of people that will phone me up for a bit of advice on, oh, you've done some burning, you've burnt the bunker faces, or I've sprayed a graminicide or something like that. And then I hear that some guys have been doing that as well. And all the guys on the Irish links course, I always think they've been ahead of the game as well. So I've got very friendly with them, and we just sort of share ideas. So we're all mentoring each other, you could say, if that's a bit of an answer.
Yeah, it's, you're exchanging ideas, and this is all about learning. And I've got a lot of really good friends that are still superintendents, and I'm doing a consulting company now, and I'm helping a number of the golf course superintendents in this area, because I used to be that 25 or 26-year-old guy that needed help, and I had a couple of guys that I went to back in the day, and now I've kind of turned into the old grizzled guy that's made all the mistakes, and I tend to fall down a lot, but when I fall down forward and I pick up ground, and so everybody's failed. I mean, there are those that have killed grass and those that will kill grass, and so I'm trying to help some of these younger guys avoid some of those mistakes, and a lot of it is the personalities and the detail of individuals that are difficult to kind of handle. I think here in the States, the biggest part of our jobs is probably 80% is managing the human beings, managing everything that's not golf and not turf. Unfortunately, it's gotten that way. So
I'm notorious for killing grass when I play. So
we're not talking about those big beaver pelt divots you take out of the ground, Matt. But yeah, thank you very much for that. And so I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know a lot of the guys in the UK use a lot more sand than we do here in the States. And there's a number of reasons for that. Maybe we can go into that just a little bit. We're going too deep into the agronomy, but I'm going to guess that, very low nitrogen, very natural, lots of sand, a lot of porosity, firm surfaces. Am I correct?
Yeah. So when I took over in 11, we had quite high organic matter levels, up to 9-10%. So we had bad grasses on the green, in my opinion. They weren't true to the links course that we wanted. So the first things first was try and get a bit more sand in. It's, it sounds easy. You think, I'm going to put 200 ton of sand on the greens. But to actually do it, the hardest thing for greenkeeping to me, it's not rocket science. It's doing the basics right.
That's right.
It's actually doing the work. Now, it's actually quite hard to go out on the course and get 200 ton of sand out. Now, I'll put down now 10, 11 ton every time I do it.
Yeah.
But you've got to dress it in. It's got to be a bit quiet. You want to do it before it rains. There's a competition coming the next day. So it actually can be quite hard just to do that job. So you've got to find ways to do it. I'm lucky, I always say, I've been blessed with some great green staff who have bought into what I wanted to do, because it's, believe it, it's quite physical work what we do here. We're not sitting on machines cutting grass. More often than not, we're hand dressing, top dressing by hand with shovels and seeds.
Sure.
And they will come back in the evenings and we'll dress when there's no one around, early in the morning, brush it in before even the first golfer's here. So it's been doing all that sort of work to get where we've got to get to. But you're right, it is, once I get my organic matter levels to the levels I want to get them, I don't have to do so much. We can gently put the sand in. But it has been up to 200 ton. I eased off last year, obviously before the Open, because I've got the levels that I wanted. There is a theory now that you can put too much down, and we're getting climate change and the heat and all the rest of it. And everyone knows I went through that drought of 2018, which was a killer for me.
Sure.
So we undone all the good work, like the course was looking amazing in 2017. So to see how it was for this Open, pure relief, I think, but a joy in the
Yeah.
end to see it all come together. It's a bit like a film. It's like, I would describe it as a Hugh Grant rom-com film. It all gets
Interesting.
going, everything's nice, hunky-dory, it's all good. And then the ex-boyfriend turns up, it all goes wrong. And then at the end, you meet the girl again, it all goes right. And it was kind of like, I was hoping we get the happy ending. So, not that it's ended, but that was the end of that chapter. So, yeah.
You got a happy ending. I was just really, really amazed, and with the conditioning, the sharpness of your machines. I can see it all, and I look at it differently than say Matt. Matt's in the marketing field, but he does play a little bit of golf. But somebody who's grown grass as long as I have, and a lot of superintendents that watch that Open, I guarantee you they noticed. And for me, if I was in your shoes, that would make me so proud. And the other thing I want to say is that's so nice of you to recognize the orchestra, which is your staff, and you're the conductor, and that orchestra is playing that beautiful music. And so that is so nice of you to say.
Well, it's funny. Normally, if it wasn't for the Open, I like to go out and divot the tees and set the markers up and all the rest of it in the morning. And I do conceive myself as a conductor. I like to see everyone in front of me doing what they've got to do, and then I'll be the last one checking it.
Yeah.
And as it goes, we kind of did do that. It was just me, and I had R&A, Alistair Beggs, walk with me every morning. And that's what we were sort of looking at. But
Right.
the guys, I was lucky because my guys are great. When you say the quality of cut and everything was so sharp, I've been very blessed with two great mechanics as well. All that grinding, when you're putting all that sand down, it comes back in and the units are all out, and the old mechanics I've had in the past will be like, oh no, another bottom blade and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But they keep doing it. And do you know what? One of them just says, Gary just says, we've got to do it. This is what we do. And we get on with it and we do it, and the guys do it. And it really was, I was blessed in this Open really, because all the support staff that I had, but blooming, it took me a long time and quite hard work to find who I thought were the right people. But they gelled. For us, sometimes you can have a them and us where the home sort of team are like not quite as friendly maybe with the support staff. You can get a fraction. It does happen, I believe. But for us, we all got on really well. I've got to throw in my lad into the equation. Obviously, I'm a single dad with my lad of 11. He just ran around playing football for a week. He had no idea there was a golf tournament on. And I think everyone just joined in playing football with him. So that was a great thing to get us all to gel, and a bit of food in the evenings together. There was a few mishaps, the weather was a bit bad on the Monday or Tuesday, and some guys were intense. It didn't go so well, and I was a little bit upset over that. But it's how you bounce back from it, and it was the biggest tournament for us ever. And we're not going to let little things, or there might be big things to certain people, but we're going to overcome it. And you know what? I couldn't be the praise or what people were saying couldn't be better for me personally and for the team. But I can't believe how many people have said how much they enjoyed the Open. It's quite incredible, really.
Well, it set a new paradigm. That conditioning was head and shoulders above any of the conditioning that I'd seen for any of the previous Opens, and that's not to take away from the other course managers and greenkeepers over there. I think but you set a new bar, and you should be commended in your staff. And so the rom-com came out great. Your gaffer and your cinematographer and all the other team players, boy, they made a great movie. And so you should be very proud. And I want to kind of roll into the next it's a little bit off topic. It's kind of interesting. I'm married to a lady that is first generation here in the States from the UK. Her grandfather was from Chelsea and was a huge Chelsea football fan. Now this was back, when World War II was going on. And so Chelsea wasn't quite the wealthy area that it is today. And Leslie's grandmother is actually from East London, where Jack the Ripper did most of his best work. And so my parents were also married in London and lived there for 4 years. My mom was in the CIA and my dad was an embassy guard at the US Embassy. And so it's a very interesting kind of relationship that I have with the UK, and I've been there a number of times, and I've not been in that area, but my dad's played Wentworth and a couple other courses when he lived there. But I wanted to ask you, are you from the London area, or where are you from originally?
I'm born in London, and
Yeah.
disappointed to hear you say Chelsea, but
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I presume from the East End, they're all proper West Ham supporters, and we're doing well this year, so
Yeah.
it must be a good year. So yeah, I was born there, but my dad's.
But you are from the East End.
Sorry. No, my dad was born in the Seychelles.
Oh, okay.
So he and his grandparents or his parents were from Norway, and my mum's from Dublin, from Ireland. So I've got a mixture.
Interesting.
So I'm the only one born in England out of my family before my son. So
interesting.
we've got a mixture of everything. But London's been my home, but I've lived everywhere. My dad then was in the army, so I've been all sorts of places.
My dad was in the Marine Corps. We've got a lot in common. So
yeah, I met a lot of my dad. We lived in Germany for 4 years as a kid, so there was quite a lot of Americans there.
Yeah,
and it was good fun. But I've done a lot of traveling. Before I was a greenkeeper, I did loads of backpacking around the world, Europe, Australia, New Zealand.
Wow.
And a bit around America. I traveled backpacked around America for a little bit as well, which is good fun. So
well, you told me you went to Vegas.
Well, I went to Vegas 2 years ago, and I've never been to Vegas. And when I woke up one morning, I thought it was a hangover in Vegas. I was expected to see the lion, and I was just like relieved. I still have been phoning me money, so it's
funny.
Another place, isn't it? And I'll tell you a little story about Vegas. Quite a few years ago, someone messaged me on Facebook, but they messaged me by mistake. It was from this lady, Cara, who was married to a Paul Larsen. But she said, I don't know how, but the message came to me. So I replied, I don't think I'm the Paul Larsen you're after. And we ended up started chatting together. And it turns out I think he's a sort of lawyer or something, but he lives in Vegas. So I went to the golf show in San Diego 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So we arranged to meet up. So I met him in Vegas, and Paul Larsen met Paul Larsen. I've got to say he's a dude as well. So there must be some connection there somewhere.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
That's a funny story.
Yeah, it was good fun. Yeah.
It's kind of a small world. Well, the golf show, the GIS, the International Golf Show, is in San Diego again. So, of course, we're going to get to meet. And I'm actually teaching a seminar, how to survive and thrive at your club. And it's from 35 years of being in the private and resort club business, and how to survive all the politics and everything else. And so I really look forward to meeting you and maybe pop your head in for a bit.
When you come into San Diego, let me know. I'll take you to dinner.
Yeah, we'll take him to dinner. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll go out. Sounds great.
For sure.
So I want to bounce back. You mentioned weather a little bit, and you hear about this Scotland and the east and west coast of Scotland getting such harsh weather, and Ireland, and you're there on the North Sea, but you're more the southern section of the North Sea. But you can get your own bad weather there, and I know that presents a lot of challenges for managing turf grass and keeping your staff happy, and fighting the elements and all those things. But how would you say your weather differs from, say, up on the east coast of Scotland, where all the golf courses are?
Yeah. So for me, it's a bit dry in the east coast of Scotland, I think. But for me down here, until this year, it never rains. It's always blooming hot and dry. Always praying for rain. There's always people going on, oh, he's obsessed with the weather.
Sounds like me. Sounds just like me. Yeah.
Can't help it. And this year, do you know what everyone's like? It's been a rubbish summer, but I haven't used our reservoir of water too much. My irrigation guy's like happy. He's not having to run around hand watering. So it's been quite refreshing. But generally, we're really dry down here and like quite hot. And it's kind of gets a bit of a European climate at times. So I go up to Scotland or Ireland, it's always green, and I get quite envious that they don't have to sort of worry too much about the drought and the heat so much. But saying that, this year, I think they've had the heat for some weird reason. and we've had a bit of the rain, but it's so, I quite like having a bit of rain. Like,
Yes.
even though the weird thing is, the winters, the last 2 or 3 winters, it doesn't stop raining, so we've almost been flooded in the winter. You know, the plain areas are fine, but the other areas around it, it's quite incredible how wet we're getting in the winter. And then normally get to the middle of March, it don't rain
Right.
until November. So you get it all in one go. The climate, everyone goes on about climate change now, but definitely something to it, because you just don't get that weather that you used to get. It's like, it's weird with the Open. It was not really windy for the 4 days, yet since then it's blooming blowing a gale every single day. And I'm like, why can't we get one day like that? That would have sorted them out that one of them days.
That would have sorted out the golf scores, that's for sure. Maybe
Yeah.
would have changed things. Morikawa and getting that win was amazing. But you introduce him to one of his first Opens, and having the wind howl might have changed things dramatically. It's interesting here in San Diego. We don't get any rain either from April 1st to about December 1st usually. And I would agree with you that the patterns have changed. But I've been growing grass since the early 1980s, and I do remember having some strange Augusts and these cycles that come and go. But there is something definitely, different about some of the weather patterns that are going on right now. And so, having that rain, I mean, we just grip and grind to get rain. And this year we only had 4 inches of rain for the entire rainy season. And what kind of rain do you guys get down there during a regular year?
800 mil, 700 mil.
Okay. So not very much.
It's, yeah, we've had up to 900, but the weird thing is, it's not the amount. You always end up with the same amount in the end. One lad said to me, we always get the same amount every year, but we just
Right.
get it all in the winter now, and we don't get any in the summer. But I can't complain, because we had 5 mil of rain in April this year, and I thought, oh, here we go, going to be a stressful year. But then we had like 80, 88 mil in May, another 60 mil in June. We never get that. So
No.
it really helped. This would normally, everyone was like, it's quite surprised to see the course quite green. And I think for the whole area where I am in the southeast, most golf courses, I play golf nearby course, Seam Valley, and it's been the greenest I've ever seen it. Normally it's brown in June and July. So we were all unusually quite green compared to how we normally are. But I actually felt it helped the look of it, and I felt we got the fairways right, the rough, all right, it's brutal, but first and second cut were fine. But it
Yeah.
actually all helped. It just sort of helped for this year.
Right. Well, one of my previous shows, we talked about some of the courses, and I've played. I played the new course at St. Andrews. I didn't get a chance to play the old course, and from the tee, the rough looks very penal. But those fescue grasses are actually quite wispy, and you can advance the ball. But I noticed in your rough outside your, that intermediate and primary cut outside of that was very, very lush and penalizing this year, which I thought was very refreshing. You didn't have to hit it into the gorse or the heather to really get punished, and so it really brought out the accurate driver of the golf ball. And so that was one of the other things. It was such a fabulous frame, where before it has a tendency to kind of wisp out there in the British Isles a little bit.
To be fair, normally it would be a lot more wispy. So we've
Yeah.
had 2 wet years, 2 wet winters, and we'd have dried out last summer. And then, so we'd have had a wet winter this year. But going into spring, like I said, May and June, it suddenly poured down. But what affected everything was not having the Open in 20. So we do a lot of cut and collect, as you know, and I thin out the rough. And in the past, I might have sprayed it or sanded it. So we've left it for 2 years. And then, of course, we've had 2 heavy winters and a wet spring. So it's never, the members hate that rough. They're all moaning now, as you can imagine. When are you going to cut the rough down?
They're all mad at you. Yeah.
I can't wait to cut it down, and we'll do it, because we're not allowed to cut it down until November. So from November to March, we'll cut it down. And then if you think burning the insides of bunkers is interesting, wait until I start setting fire to the rest of the rough on the course. That gets quite interesting.
You can't do that here in the States. You used to be able to burn the rough, or used to be able to burn the grasses at the seed fields up in Oregon, where all of our ryegrass seed comes from. You used to be able to burn the fields to get ready for your new crop, and you're not allowed to burn anymore. And so the environmental impact has been pretty heavy, but good for you. You still get to burn that rough. You don't have to use a herbicide. I think it's much more natural, and it's the way it should be. And, waiting for your members to react to the post open conditions for me is just so exciting. We had a 2006 junior amateur at Rancho Santa Fe when I was there, and we had the Ricky Fowlers and those kids playing in that year. And I had the rough up so dramatically high, and it took us 3 months to get it down. The same thing you're dealing with, and my members were out there, fishing for golf balls, and the rounds were taking 5 hours. But that's the nature of the beast when you have a championship at your golf course. And so, if they agreed to it, they've got to deal with the aftermath as well.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. You got the lower handicappers quite happy. You got to leave it rough, and then you see everyone just looking in the same old rough area, and you feel a bit sorry for them. And I actually want it long and wispy. And the thing is, it's not just. There are courses out there that just have pure fescue in the rough. We don't. So I've got crested dogstail, sweet vernal. There's different types of fescue out there. So it will look nice, but it deceives you, and you think you can get a decent club to it, and it wraps around the hosel and stuff a little bit. But at least you don't lose your ball, and you can find it if you know roughly where you hit it. Right. That's the look I want. I actually, personally, for me, I felt it was too thick. But bearing in mind that the weather was quite nice, no wind, it was actually about right. So for these guys, you know what? It was 50 yards. It was in width from second cut to second cut. So you know what? They're quite wide in this modern era. So if you're in the rough, you deserve to be punished for a major, really.
Right. Well, it's a field of play that changes, and the golfer really has to understand that when he comes out, there's all kinds of factors that are going to affect the way that the game is played. And that's the most beautiful thing about golf. I mean, it's not like a football pitch or a rugby pitch, and I'm just using the UK vernacular. Over here, we would call it a rugby field or a football field, but over there, I think that you call it a pitch, and it's fairly predictable. Unless it rains, you're going to have the same height to cut and everything else. And but golf is different, and trying to get that player to understand, maybe you shouldn't hit driver here. It's firm and fast. Maybe you ought to hit a rescue, or maybe even a long iron. Why are you hitting driver sideways into the secondary rough? And now you've got problems. And it's a thinking person's game. It's strategic to the height of a person's intellect to be able to understand how to get through those 18 holes of golf. And that's the beauty of the game. And it's really, I think, our job to let the golfer know that it's their responsibility to understand there's a score you're going to take today, and it's up to you to try to determine how to get to where that is. So I want to move on to kind of our last topic, and that is Royal St. George's where you're going to end up? Is it your dream job? Is it a place that you could retire at? And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you, Paul?
That's a good question. I always lie. So I'm going to say 50, but I might have my 50th in January because I've lied so much. I've confused myself with what age I am.
That's awesome. Well,
when you come to San Diego, Paul, we'll celebrate your 50th, okay?
Yeah,
we'll do that. Let's hope we can fly and travel, because we'll do that.
Yeah,
that's a really good idea, Matt. I like that. So, for me, I think I always had this idea of a dream job, and I think I ended up at my dream job for such a long career at the same place. And, it educated my children, and it paid off my house, and all those things just gave me such wonderful memories with so many great members and staff that I had. But, you still have aspirations maybe of doing a major championship. And now that you've got one of those, is it something that you want to continue to do? And, I'm sure some of your members may end up seeing this. I don't want to put you on the spot, but, we all have dreams of this crazy industry we call golf. And you've got an 11-year-old boy that probably just adores being out there with you. I would think that's a place you could probably stay until you retire, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a very good question. And when you say dream job, uh, now I lived as well in Folkestone, which is half an hour away from here, and I play at a little course, a little private members course where I'm actually chairman of Greens of that course as well. So it's quite
Man,
unique seeing it from both sides now.
sure.
It actually increases my knowledge on how we should do our job and everything. But the dream job probably was St. George's here. This is the best. This is the course in this area. We've got
Yes.
some great courses, and we've got Prince's and St. Paul's nearby, North Orleans and Ryan, Canterbury. There's some great courses around here as well. Um, I never, I never envisaged coming to work here. It sort of just happened. And I was an assistant here for 2 years. And then I left to go to Holland for 4 years where I was managing a course out there. So my plan, I never really, it's weird. I don't have a plan like a game plan. I'm going to do this by this age, this by this age, and all that. It just sort of happens. I just believe
Sure.
it's sort of fate how it works out. But it is important. I'm no longer with my lad's mum anymore, so I've got to stay local to a point. I see him from school. He's obsessed with football and
Yeah.
loves he loves a bit of golf and he's into the Cure and a bit of the 80s and 90s. So
I
hit the
don't know where
jackpot.
that came from.
I don't. All I can say is, as an 11-year-old kid, to get him that way, I couldn't mould him any different.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, I just hope it's not one of them when I get to 16, you go, oh, where did it all go wrong? So
Yeah.
I hope it turns out well.
I
But
think I think
yeah,
he's gonna be fine. I think he'll be fine.
yeah, I think so.
I think he'll
And
be fine.
he adored the Open and everything. He loves here, and the guy, everyone looks after him here, so it's brilliant. So I
Yeah.
don't. It's weird because I've got a new. I want to make the course better. If I stay for next year or for the future, there's a few things I've got up my sleeve that I want to do because I feel like I need to get more fescue in the greens. I want to thin the rough out a little bit. There's a couple of projects I've got to do. I don't think I can go to a golf course and just sort of just cut the grass and go through the motions. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I have to. You have to strive for a 10 out of 10, so to speak, and sometimes you have to break a few eggs to get there.
You sure do.
And that's we may have to do that a bit more now. As everyone who knows me, I've certainly it's not been an easy journey with what I've done here. We had lots of ryegrass, Yorkshire fog, power in the greens, fairways weren't very good. You said to me earlier about the open courses, this is the best condition course you'd seen. Well, that's I take that as a massive compliment because I'm friends with all the guys on all the other open courses, and Carnoustie was my favourite, and Craigie does a brilliant job up there. And I look up there, I think, wow, I've got to be as good as them. And I remember going to Hoylake years ago, and their fairways were miles better than ours when I first went there. And I thought, crikey, we've got to up our game a bit. And then
Mhm.
Port Rush, I went to Port Rush,
Yeah.
one of the best courses ever. Just fantastic.
When
I was
Shane Lowry run, Shane Lowry
yeah,
run,
Shane Lowry won
won.
it, and I was
It was
actually,
great.
the course was brilliant, and
It
I
was.
was actually nervous of following that. Maybe being postponed a year was probably quite good because I thought, oh, what setting that was and everything. But as it worked out, we've all got a unique charm to each course, and from all the guys that I talked to, we always want to get it a bit better. We're our own biggest critics. And yeah, we'll have members moaning, and sometimes, we all make mistakes. And I remember talking in front of a load of head greenkeepers once, and I went down a road of killing the greens in 2013 or 14. If I look back on what I did, it was the right thing to do at the time. But if I went back to do it now, I would do it differently.
Change some things. Yeah.
I would change some things, but it was the right thing at that time. So you can't have regrets. It was definitely the right thing, but you learn more as you do it. And now I'll give advice to anyone. And you know what? It's actually not for everyone. So I always look at you say, if you're a mentor, I don't think many people, not being big headed in any way, with all the strife that we've been through here, because I've had a bit of grief in the past with what we've been through.
Sure.
It takes a certain character to get through that. And I still believe greenkeepers, it becomes your life, doesn't it? But it's still a job to me. Uh, but it's everything you do. But if you sack me or you want someone else, that's fine. I've done the best I can. I'll
Yeah.
find another job. Now I've gone around traveling the world. That was the greatest experience I've done because if it didn't work, you didn't eat. Now I've built roller coasters. I was scared of heights. I've walked the loop. I've sold sweets to charity companies. I've
Yeah.
picked kiwi fruit. I've
You've
picked
met
fruit.
other Paul Larsens. I mean, in Vegas, like
I know. I should have gone
you're
to
pretty
uni.
accomplished.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm secretly a lawyer in disguise, but
Yeah.
uh, there's
Well,
you know
you
it
know,
actually
I
is.
think
Yep.
I think guys that do what we do, you get so creative. You get good at so many different things that when you do finally leave the business or you decide to stay, you're convinced you can do anything. You can manage anything. You can control, your own to a certain extent, your own end game. And because we've gotten so good, I think, at managing all these different factions and weather and staff and just so many management things, and you get excellent at a lot of different things. And so it's obvious with you, and the product that you put out, and the path that you've traveled. I'm just really, really impressed with Paul Larsen. I mean, the real Paul Larsen. I think we're really, really impressed with the real Paul Larsen here. And so, well, we're gonna kind of end this. I think we're 35 minutes in, and we don't want to get this episode too long. But if you could send a message to everyone in the golf game, every golfer in the world. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. If you could send a message by text to every golfer in the world, any idea what you'd like to tell them, what you'd like to get across to them after all your years of struggles and success in golf? Can you think of anything? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, without a small little catchphrase, where I play golf, the easiest thing to sum it up is I play a little golf course and I go there because I love the golf course. I love the people there. It's my social life as well. As much as everything's here at George's, I've got a secondary life over there as well. And you know what? I would still join every year, even if it was mud, and I'd still part on them. And I'd still have a good time in the bar afterwards. I'd still come in and moan the green should be better. And I'd probably still moan that I landed in a couple of divots and all that. But all with everything going on in the world and everything, golf is meant to be fun. So enjoy it. Don't be overly critical of little things. We know we've got to strive to do everything perfect, and we try, but go there and actually enjoy playing golf. And 90% of golfers love playing golf. We get old, it's the only sport in the world you can play at any age, at any ability. It's not like football. I try and
No.
play now and I've got to walk now. We've got to enjoy it as much and try not to. I think in life with everyone, we can be too negative, and we got to look at the positives, and we're all doing our best. And you know what? All I say is, like, youngsters coming into the game, we've got to give them a bit of leeway. It's quite hard working every morning early, all sorts of weathers, every weekend, bank holidays. Do you know what? Some days you ain't feeling it. You might have had a bad day, but generally we keep coming back because we love the golf course, and it hurts us to hear criticism.
Oh,
It's so enjoyable for me. The Open, when people say, "Did you enjoy the Open?" is the question they ask me. Such a I can't say yes as such because you sort of say yes when it's over. It's pure relief that all I wanted was everyone watching it to say they've enjoyed it, and all the players, more importantly as well, to say that they loved the golf course. And do you know what? George has said sort of reputation part. They hate the blind shots and the bad bounce. We didn't get hardly any of that, and
no.
felt like the new Americans coming into it. When I've seen Americans come and play in the last few years before lockdown, they were blown away by the landscape of the course and everything else. And my job, I felt, was to highlight everything we had to offer And we just hope everyone, I've always been saying, I want everyone to come and see it in the flesh so they can enjoy it. And you know what, when the sun's blown out and the little bit of breeze and you see the sea and all the fescue blowing in the winds and that,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
nice to behold.
Oh.
So that's what we've got to do. We all love golf. That's why we do it. And that's why we play. And that's why we work here. That's a long message.
That is a very long message. That's 3 or 4 texts, but yeah.
I know.
But you nailed it. Just try to enjoy yourself.
You nailed
Have
it.
fun.
You got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, cheers to you. God bless you. You're just a breath of fresh air and just such a revelation to me. And I'm so glad that you responded to me on LinkedIn. Thank God for LinkedIn that I was able to reach out to you and bring you on the show. Please don't hesitate to look me up when you come to San Diego.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We've got 3 extra bedrooms. You're welcome to stay at the house. And we can just talk golf all day long because it excites me. And then we'll take you to my little golf course that I play called Goat Hill in Oceanside. And you would love it. I don't know if you're familiar with John Ashworth and the Link Soul Clothing Company, but that's his place. And maybe look it up on the internet. And it's a shot maker's paradise and a great group of people. And so we're going to sign off. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon. And thank you very much for coming on Fresh Cut.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our title sponsor, which is Bosch Power Tools.
Yes.
Go down and pick yourself up something at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's the best stuff in the world. So Bosch Power Tools. Thanks again, Paul, for coming in.
Thank you so much, Paul. And Paul, I'm going to find you on LinkedIn and Facebook. So when you come out to San Diego, we're celebrating 50 years, buddy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And you know what? I'm just me. I'm not anything special. We just green keepers. That's all we do.
When I request you on Facebook, I hope it's you and not the lawyer in Vegas. So
we'll both friend you. So you get the best of both worlds.
All right.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Paul, thanks again, sir. Thank you for taking time out.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Fresh Cut. Tune in next week for another amazing guest. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you're playing the great game of golf today, fill in those divots and stay on the cart paths.